Okay, good afternoon. And today we shall be back to Freud with a different text. And in this brief talk uh, on Freud's 1905 text, jokes and their relation to the unconscious. So just like the theory of dream, just like theory of everyday psychopathology, Freud was very curious about the jokes we share in our daily life, the jokes that we often crack, the kind of jokes we often enjoy, the kind of jokes that we often offer. So there must be very interesting thing inside. There must be very significant aspects inside. Freud actually thinks that jokes are similarly very meaningful. It may seem to us that jokes are some casual moments we often share together. Jokes are often that talks about our very light moments. Jokes are those when we are in no way serious at all. But Freud's opinion is quite opposite. Freud rather thinks that jokes are very serious. Jokes are something that can help us to go deeper at the mind of the person who is sharing or cracking the jokes. It talks directly if jokes are deciphered in a particular manner, if the jokes are dissected in a methodical way, then we can reach to the psyche of the person, because it talks a lot about human personality and human perception and observation, and so many data, hidden data can come out with the jokes that the man shares. Freud's interpretation of dreams came in 1900. After 5 years came out this another famous book, Jokes and Their Relation Unconscious, in 1905. But the interesting fact is that Freud is finding a deep-rooted connection with the jokes, theory of jokes, and on the other, the theory of dream operation. The way dream works in our mind, the way dream plays a very vital role to go what is working in our brain. In a very similar way, jokes also talks a lot about our human psyche, about our unconscious. So in a basic platform, Freud is trying to make a parallel. But the fact is that when in the case of dreaming process, the person is asleep. The person is there. He is not conscious. He is in a deep sleep. On the other hand, in case of cracking, sharing a joke, the man is awake. He is not at all asleep. He is very much conscious. So, in two very opposite states of human physical position, there is an internal connection between the two. It may be one is sleeping and the other case, the person is awake, but in both ways, they are connected to the unconscious link of the individual, and it talks in a similar way all those hidden aspects of that person, of that individual nature and behavior. He was no other than Wilhelm Fliess. And once again, we need to remember Freud had very good association with friends, colleagues, researchers with whom he worked. together, and this habit of working together helped Freud to know the way the project that he has taken so far and the kind of upcoming events he would like to go in. So here in the case of Wilhelm Fliess, and Fliess was there who helped with valuable suggestions, observations regarding jokes, humor, comic situations that we often share, that we often encounter, in which we often participate. So our everyday comical situation, our everyday humorous exchanges are never unimportant events at all, according to Freud. Those are very serious, important aspects of our being. Those are those significant moments in which the real I, the real we, is very much inside. We are to be known what kind of joke we like. We are to be known what kind of joke we share. We like to know more deeper. We can reach deeper, finding it out what kind of joke I like while searching on the social media. So that kind of repetition will help to analyze the kind of person he or she is. Now, social media, of course, in Freud's time, it was never then. And I would like to mention social media here because the psychologists of our time, they very much, they are of the passion, they are of the habit that they think it well that if you would like to know an individual, now look at the post the man shares. Look at the quotations. Look at the pictures that the man share. Look at the kind of it may be joke. It may be apparently uneventful incidents, photos, photographs, graphical presentation, whatever the man shares over social media. If you make an in-depth, deep related analysis of that, you can have at least a kind of a very not clear cut at that very not trained. But if we go deeper, we can have some idea what kind of a man he or she is. So I think that in a social media that is basically virtual, friendship often happens virtual platform. So before making a friendship, before accepting a friendship, one should know, one should think in a very deeper way, make a kind of a homework before accepting such kind of friendship proposal, whether or what kind of a person he or she is. So that will obviously will be very helpful. And since in Freud's time there was no such social media option, so and we have it is in our time. So had Freud there in our time, so he would have been also there to say his valuable commentaries regarding the post, the sharing, the likes, the dislikes, the commentaries he or she makes. So on the basis of that, you can have a very vague idea regarding the personality of an individual. So, of course, it was his friend Wilhelm Fliess who helped him a lot to know about the kind of technicalities, the kind of crudities, different aspects of jokes in our life. And that is the result of the 1905 book, Jokes and Their Relation to the Unconscious. Now, While talking about jokes, we have already mentioned that Freud has made it very clear cut that he finds not much difference between the interpretation of dreams and the interpretation of the jokes. Now, while in the case of dreaming process, we find that our mind, our conscious mind, uh, creates hindrance when the man was awake throughout the day. The kind of events, the kind of desire, the kind of emotion came to the person, and the conscious mind, uh, the ego and superego, they modified those hidden desires, those suppressed emotions, those were actually under the control. And that is the reflection that the man often experience, uh, during the sleep as dream. So dreaming is a kind of a session. The desire, the impulses, which were repressed so long by the conscious mind and which were continuously being filtered in a very dynamic system, process. So they came up in their own way, in an unrestricted manner at the session of dreaming. And then when it was the session of dreaming, it was the process that was defenseless and there was no problem at all. And it was restrictionless. Naturally, it never creates any trouble. So dream work has its own way of judgment, quite similar way. When the jokes come to an individual, it creates a similar kind of impact on the mind. Jokes are basically a momentary period, okay? A jokes doesn't stay long. If we think of the duration of a joke, it is momentary in nature. And not only that, when someone experiences a joke, it creates a kind of a momentary blankness in the mind. Okay? The moment one is listening to the joke, rest of the ideas are off. The man is curious what the other one is, a fashion of a joke. So there are a momentary blankness that I was talking about, that as Freud is would like to explain in his theory of joke, that momentary blankness ultimately gives a signal in the brain, okay, and that signal uh, gets operated in our unconscious mind. Even when the person is awake, that signal triggered by that momentary period of blankness, it creates a kind of a working pattern in the unconscious mind. And we know that, and gradually in a process of cognitive process, our brain gets response, it enjoys, and it gets a kind of a pleasure. So joke obviously gives a kind of a pleasure. So I am sure that here we find that two very similar kind of emotion. The pleasure principle in dream and the pleasure principle in sharing of a joke. Jokes too, in a similar way, soothes our mind, unburdens all the daily, disturbances, restrictions, uh, pressures. When we share joke, when we listen to joke, I'm sure that everyone will be of the same opinion that during that particular phase, our mind refreshes. It gets relaxed. Suddenly we feel that we are unburdened. All the social, official, familial responsibilities that often make us gloomy. At the time of sharing the jokes we enjoy, we feel that we are somewhere else, and all the burdens and responsibilities that can put us down, that can make our spirit down immediately for that particular phase. At the time of sharing the joke, we can detect that, okay, it is a different sort of phase that is very enjoyable, that is very, you know, praiseworthy, pleasure seeking, lovely. So, momentary blankness signal that passes through the mind, unconscious mind, and there is a kind of a force, a very serious force that accumulates, that gets accumulated. And then gradually, the cognitive process works in our brain, we enjoy, we share. So the ultimate thought is that joke is a kind of a process that transforms our moment immediately. The moment that we were at that very time before listening to the joke, and the moment we are listening to the joke and we are enjoying, we are a different I. We are a different individuals. So joke can, you know, do that very magic. So from that very angle, here lies the necessity of joke. Here lies that very pleasure-seeking moment of joke. And not only that, the kind of impulses, the kind of emotions, the kind of pleasures which come together in a package while listening to a joke, it creates different type of impact on the brain. Now, joke can be shared of different level, of different layers. But if we look at the kind of jokes which are in practice in the society, in social media, in different other platforms, those people who are making jokes, creating jokes, sharing jokes, individual has a very common tendency of replacement of the jokes with so many other factors. The very popular replacement that we find while sharing of the jokes is obscenity. Now, obscenity cannot be shared in our daily conversation. Rather, people wouldn't like it, right? But in most cases, a very major part of the jokes in which innuendo are very much there, replacement of obscenity with the playing of the words are used in such a way in which the message of obscene pleasure is very much there, but still no one can deny, because censorship doesn't work here. Censorship in no way creates any trouble here. Why? Only because it's a replacement. It's a double path. daily conversation, some replaced phrases and words in the form of a joke in which the message of obscenity stuffed inside. If it is one kind of a joke, we find the replacement works in so many levels. And the replacement works in the form of aggression, in the form of cynicism, in the form of skepticism. And in all the cases, obscenity, aggression, cynicism, skepticism, the biggest gift that the person who shares, the person who enjoys, is laughter. Laughter dilutes the position. Laughter makes the whole atmosphere volatile. Laughter puts the two opposite individuals together. It immediately dislocate the barrier of academic barrier, social barrier of wealth. When individuals, even unknown individuals, share joke, at the moment of sharing joke, they forget about their social conditions. He may be a poor person, someone is rich, someone is an intellectual, someone is a very, a gloomy person, someone is in a very terrible shock, whatever the condition is. At the moment of sharing joke, everyone forgets. The moment gets diluted. Everyone is on a different platform and suddenly they come on the same floor. They forget their position at that very moment. It is very interesting. And this interesting fact also happens, think of Durga Puja festival. During the last day, Dashami, when everyone is going to that procession, when those Durga idols with all other accompanied idols of gods and goddesses, and the idols are thrown on the holy water of a river, at that moment, or any festival, moment of festivity, we forget our position. Our individual social status get temporarily missing. People simply forget. So joke can change an environment. It makes the whole process different. Now, if we read the text of our discussion, jokes and the relation to the unconscious, it will give us the kind of impact that Freud is a researcher. Freud, who has done some serious job of reading so many other writers and their works on jokes, and each and everyone far ahead of Freud, they have contributed their opinions on the practice of jokes making and sharing. Now, early in the text, Freud has categorically mentioned that people don't give importance to jokes. They have never thought of it of any philosophical dimension. They consider joke is very light in everyday interaction, everyday sharing of the moments. Only a small number of writers that Freud has could identify, they have uh, given very serious attention to this particular fact called joke. Otherwise, the very common tendency of individuals are there that they don't give any importance to jokes. So, who are those chosen fellow by Sigmund Freud to whom Freud has given importance to as thinkers of jokes? One is the novelist Jean Paul, the philosopher, a group of philosophers actually, Theodor Fischer, Kuno Fischer, and Theodor Lipps, Lipps. So these philosophers, thinkers, writer, they have their own opinions ahead of Sigmund Freud regarding the process called joke. Now, Freud has quoted Lipps' commentaries on jokes. It is very interesting. Lip is going to say that a joke is something comic which is entirely subjective. Very interesting comment. Joke is something comic which is entirely subjective. That is something comic which we produce, which is attached to action of ours as such, to which we invariably stand in the relation subject and never of object, not even of voluntary object. Every joke we enjoy as a subjective process. We enjoy it relating our own emotion and experiences. Joke is common, but when the joke is enjoyed by so many individuals, each and every individual take it from his or her own point of view. He or she enjoys the joke from his or her own experiences. So this is very remarkable viewpoint, and joke is basically enjoyed from so many dimensions. Now, the next comment that Freud makes in the text is by Fischer. According to Fischer, a joke is a judgment. A joke is a judgment which produces a comic contrast. That is very interesting also. Joke is basically a comic contrast. It has already played a silent part in caricature. But only in judgment does it attain its peculiar form and the free sphere of its unfolding. So joke, according to Fischer, is created only when we make a contrast. And when we make a contrast, then a sort of incongruity happens. There is a very popular example. Someone walks on the path. While walking on the path, he was in hurry and he had very less time to see what is thrown over on the path. And so, as he was in hurry, he couldn't see that the skin of a banana is over there. Since the skin of the banana was over there and he put his leg on it, he got slipped and fell on the ground. Now the onlooker, immediately without being very sorry for the event, they often experience a kind of a laughter, falling in such a way immediately creates a sense of laughter. Why? Now it immediately creates a sense of laughter with that sense of contrast that one individual or the rest of the individuals are in the standing position and they are standing on the ground having a very solid impact on their own. But out of them, one individual is now got slipped, is now on the ground loitering only because of the skin of a banana. So this very position that got changed, and because of the position, one is in standing position, the rest one is on the floor. Since there was a slip because of the banana skin, that immediate contrast and immediate satisfaction. Okay, I am okay first, but he is over there. The kind of sense of self-security that is very much there. There is always a sense of self-security. I am okay. I am okay, but I must help the person. I must not at all enjoy all the time. The man is, falling down over there. I must go and stretch my hand to take the man up. But first, I am secured. I am in a safe zone. So this very immediate contrast creates the sense of laughter. And I'm sure you must be, in that case, you must have seen the kind of notification. Suppose there is an earthquake recently. What we often find on the Facebook, someone has clicked over there that he is safe. So this very identification, of course, probably it was done by Facebook or other software, that whether the person is safe or not. But whenever we see such kind of an notification that I am safe at the time of storm, at the time of earthquake, at the time of any other natural disaster, so it on the moment creates that sense of security that every individual is actually think of. J. Paul is another one. His observations was there that was also liked by Sigmund Freud. And Paul was there to say, joking is the disguised priest who weds every couple. This very uncommon kind of a definition. It makes the whole thing very enjoyable. Joking is the disguised priest who weds every couple. Now, joke is obviously a disguised factor that we all have inside. But it is true that it varies from individual to individual. One man can enjoy one joke, but the others may not. They can be with a very sullen expression on the face, even when the rest of the people are horrendously laughing and enjoying the moment. But one is seen very calm and quiet, and there is not a single hint of smile on the face. So it will vary often man to man. But it is something that is there. And it is something that comes, that appears in a very disguised manner. So before I conclude this brief talk on joking, I would like to quote a few little portion from the text by Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud was there to say that we have heard of, we have just listened to so many observations by so many thinkers and writers, and who have their own kind of opinions, observations. So, what is the ultimate? What is there? Now, Freud, while observing the opinions of so many writers and thinkers and philosophers, ultimately he considers that all the activities, all these, performance, jokes obviously a performance. So there is a sense of containment, a kind of a satisfaction in the mind in one hand. It is a kind of a very playful judgment. While sharing joke, we find coupling of dissimilar things. Jokes often are created out of dissimilarities. One example is given by me. So we share joke out of dissimilar things, contrasting ideas. Joke comes out of contrast. And there is a sense in nonsense. In jokes, there is a sense in nonsense. And Freud goes on saying, succession of bewilderment and enlightenment. In a joke, often a joke is shared in front of you, addressing you, and you are bewildered. You cannot get out of it immediately. But then gradually you can come to the point, okay, the joke was actually addressed to you. So there is a kind of a succession of bewilderment and enlightenment. You cannot enjoy the joke until or unless you are enlightened to it. And it gradually brings forward what is hidden, peculiar brevity of wit. So this is how it is a kind of a complete sense in total. And they are dejecta membra, a kind of a phrase used by Freud in the text. Dejecta membra. It's a combination, it's a organic whole. So that much I had to say in this very brief introduction to our text that talks about our everyday experience of sharing jokes, sharing some of the very comic events in our life. That is an integral part and that we cannot deny. And that is a necessary ingredient of our daily living. That I had to say. Thank you so much.